5 components of behavior modification. There are 5 components of behavior modification: positive reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment, and extinction. So we all are familiar with what it means to reinforce something or what it means to punish something. But in the context of behavior modification, it's really, really important to remember that each one of these concepts really does stand alone, and it does serve a different purpose, and it does place the emphasis in a different place when it comes to modifying behavior. So to simplify some of these concepts, I'm going to give you just a quick explanation of what these really look like in real life. So positive reinforcement. So think of it in terms of a trick for a treat. So what does that really mean? It means you want a behavior to continue. And so a trick for a treat means if we have a dog and we want them to continue sitting when we tell them to sit on command, we will positively reinforce sit, they will do it, we give them a treat. Sit, they will do it, they give them a treat. Keep in mind, this goes along with Pavlov's original theories of really operant conditioning, where it, with the Pavlov dog concept, where he rings the bell and the dogs salivate. And so it's one of those things where this really falls along the lines of positive reinforcement, a trick for a treat when you want a behavior to continue. Negative reinforcement is stop doing that. So we want to reinforce a behavior, but we want to reinforce a positive behavior so that we can decrease a negative behavior. For example, a negative behavior with going along the example of dogs. If when you get home every day, the dog jumps up on you and jumps up on you. So suppose that behavior is annoying, which in most cases people think jumping up on you is annoying. And so what we normally do is say, get down, hi, you're a good dog, but get down, get down, get down. Well, because a dog has low intellect, they are associating jumping up with getting a response from their human. And so what are they going to do? They're going to continue doing it. And so they don't realize that we don't like that because that's not how dogs are wired. So if we want to negatively reinforce something, and we don't want them to continue jumping up on us when we get home from work, then when we get home, we walk in the door and they start to jump, we turn our back to them. Meaning you have to not acknowledge their behavior in any way. You don't give them a pat on the head. You don't tell them anything. You just almost turn your back to them because they're not getting the response that they want. Keep in mind, to modify behavior means you have to change the response. That's what we're doing. So if we do a negative reinforcement, we are going to reinforce something that we want to stop, the behavior, an undesirable behavior. So let's take this a little bit further. So suppose that works. Eventually, the goal here would be to get the dog, when you get home, to stop jumping up, really just look at you. And then if it's not jumping, then you give them the positive, reinforcement at that point, scratch them on the head, tell them they're a good dog, good to see them, blah, 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 because that's how you can break bad habits when it comes to, modifying behavior. Now, positive punishment. What does that really mean? Well, that is really action consequence. Dogs barking outside is really annoying. Nobody really enjoys it. We don't enjoy it. Neighbors don't enjoy it. Who knows? So what we're doing to positively punish is we're adding something to try to decrease something. So in this case, if my dog is outside raising the roof, and I can't get them to stop, yelling at them tells them no, stop barking, blah, 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 and they don't. If I use a bark collar, the second they bark, they're going to get a vibration or a shock on their neck. Then they will stop because it's a positive punishment. We are adding something, so we're adding the bark collar to stop the annoying behavior. That's how positive punishment really works. And then negative punishment, no means no. This is when the behavior isn't changing. We have to switch over to an actual punishment to make something stop. So again, dogs barking, they don't respond to the bark collar. So what can we do? Well, we can bring them in the house. So we take them out of the environment and they stop barking. And so it's one of those things where you have to then remove, it's a punishment. They don't get to do that. Same concept, if you were to take away a toy. So you don't get to play with this toy because you're not playing the right way with it if it was a child. And so that's really what the negative punishment looks like. is when there's actually kind of a consequence that isn't designed to really be to change the behavior. It's just a consequence like, yep, you lost it. And so that's really where negative punishment comes in. So the final component is this idea of extinction. So with behavior modification, behavior will only stick, modified behavior will only stick as long as it's continued reinforcement. So if you were to train your dog to stop jumping up on you when you get home from work, and eventually they start jumping up on you again, and you continue to give them a pat on the head, it's consistency. Behavior modification only works and these components only work as long as you're consistent. So another way to put this is like, if you think about it, as soon as the stimulus stops or as soon as something is not being acknowledged, there's an extinction of any type of modification that's occurring. The desired outcomes are going to also come to a stop. That's the concept of being extinct. I always like to use the example of the trainers at SeaWorld. The only reason they've trained wild animals to do the things that they've done is because they are positively reinforcing trick for treat, using other different techniques to get them to continue performing in the ways that they do. At any time, if they were to stop giving the treats or stop with the affirmations or whatever that animal is responding to, the animal would return to its instincts and it would likely want to eat anything, including, them, if they were, if they were hungry. And so that's kind of what this concept is. Behavior modification, it only works as long as you're consistent. And as soon as you stop modifying or you stop being consistent, that's when the bad behavior comes back.